Hey y'all, girls, guys, coming again. Now we're going to build a bigger atomizer with a single Clapton coil. Stainless steel Clapton at that. Using pre-made wire. It's not capable enough, competent enough to wrap my own Clapton, but this one builds a little bit differently. We're going to be running it with a single coil reducer. We're going to be running it horizontal. And we're building it for a bottom fed setup. Okay, we're building it for bottom fed. Maximum performance on a squonker, this little mech squonker. Whether you're going to put it on a mech, I build for a mech about that resistance, about, I don't know, 0.5 ohms or whatnot. It wouldn't matter if I put it on a mech or regulated, but I always build for the worst case scenario. In case I'm going to stick it on a mech, it'll work. Regulated works just fine too. Here's kind of what we're going to replicate. Just going in with that. Got a single coil, very simple, single coil reducer inside this atomizer. Simple little mechanical mod. That's it, 18650 mech with a single coil. I've gotten to realize once those little pops are good. I used to try and avoid them. There's no reason to have them when you run unflavored nick bass. But when you run in flavors, those little pops mean you are wicked spot on, okay? Now, as long as it's not spitting and blowing shit back in your mouth, you're good. The pops are good. That means you're wicked just perfectly. And tells me right about now I give it a little squonk, just a little squonk. Also notice the position of my air hole in a single coil. I've gotten a little bit, I shouldn't say a little bit, gotten better performance. I used to run them there way back in the day, but then I started to put them to the side because I was kind of phoning and leaking and stuff, so I've learned to hold my mod different, but that works good because then it basically wets your wick. And with a single coil reducer or an atomizer that's small in diameter, pretty much any atomizer I'm running now, I put the air hole facing towards the front. So it wets the wick, everything goes away, get a real consistent vape, very little gurgling. This one, we're going to build it with the air holes wide open on one side, closed off on the other. The flavor is insane. The vapor is freaking, you can see for yourself. I'm not going to win any cloud competitions, but it is adequate as hell. All that on a little single. Again, what's more important to me is the flavor, how the wick lasts a good few days in it. Then I just pull it out and dry burn the coil. This is a sweeter flavor. It's E-Pistol E-Liquids Mango Lassie, and it is just spot on. The other thing we're going to cover, aside from wicking it properly, is making your coil to bend the legs. Simple leg bends. Look at me. Yeah, I know. I look like I'm just kind of came out of like Duke University or something, huh? Princeton. Regular Ivy League type of dude here. We're talking simple legs. You don't have to be technical to do this because I'm not a technical or patient person, but the simple leg bends I learned that get the legs out of the way of the wick and allow you to center up the coil without separating the winds, because we're building a contact coil. It's going to wind up being about 8 to 10, probably about 8 winds at the end of the day. I'll show you the one we're going to emulate, which is basically in this build right here. Pull it apart and go over there and take a little look at it. So this is the build we're going to duplicate right here. Pretty much that, spot on. You'll get to see when I'm done how the wick is thin. It does a killer job of doing what it needs to do. It's got a single coil reducer in it, and the legs are not in the way of the wick and allows for the ultimate centering of the coil in there. This one's been in here for a few days. It blows up. Let's just say it blows up. Thin wick, if you're not using thin wick, you're not bending your legs and getting them out of the way, and you have one coming off the bottom, you're going to realize the difference. The difference is we're going to take that setup and emulate it on this setup right here. We're going to put it right here, okay? Take this and put it right there. I'll show you the basic tools we're going to need for this operation, and I say basic, I mean basic. Cut some wire. I'm going to cut this wire right here. 26 inner core, 36 outer core, pre-made Clapton. I don't have the patience or the time. To me, making Clapton wire, I really envy those that can do it. I can't do it. I can change my oil. I equate it to changing my oil. I can go out there and change my oil, but god damn. I mean, why? Why do it in my cars? I can pay and have it done, and it doesn't cost that much more. Here's a new addition. You don't need these, but I use these to tighten up the coil and to pull the wire off, they're nylon tip pliers, okay? I'll show you how I use them. Again, that's kind of an option. These are going to be all you're going to need to bend your legs. Okay, this is what we're going to wrap the coil on right here. Coil Master 2.5 millimeter pole. This is a single coil reducer that's going to go in that atomizer. These are the top caps. This is essentially the coil that we're going to make. This is what I'm talking about with leg bends. That's all. Because what we're going to try and do in this Atty is, you notice that the top post on it is higher than the outer post. Well, typically when we plug it in, the low leg goes here, and then when you go to center it, it separates your coil, and you got a leg in the way of your wick. So what we've done is we're doing it a little bit differently. Let's see if I can bring this in so get a good idea of what I'm talking about. See how I'm getting the top leg to come off and be low, and the low leg to come off and be high. Hard to understand it now, but you'll see what it does for your for wicking and allowing you to center that coil, and that coil maintains its integrity all the way through the whole deal. You don't wind up with a bunked out coil. So I use this one kind of as a size gauge for when I'm winding it. The other tools we'll need is any kind of some ceramic tweezers, just to kind of, not to squeeze the coil to make it tight, because it's going to be tight, but just to kind of manipulate the electrons around. You'll see if you get any hot spots or anything like that. All we're doing is moving electrons. Now let's trim my wick. We'll run this wick right here, Native Wicks Platinum, and that's it. So let's get down to getting busy with it. First thing I'm going to do is move all this crap out of the way. Then it's neither here nor there at the moment. It's kind of in order that I'll use it. I'm going to pull off about 6 inches of this Clapton. Again, that's where I use these nylon tip pliers. You can get them off Amazon. I just buy off Amazon. It's easy. Pull out about 6 inches of this stuff, okay? 6 to 12 on the old board. It's about 6 inches. Again, with wire, I tend to go long. Rather come up long than come up short, okay? So we're done with that. Then we're just going to take this wire, jam it in here. Coil Master kills on Clapton wire. It works really good. I mean, it's like problem free. The thinner the wire you use, and this is pretty thin Clapton. This is not thick. It's single core. It's a single thin core, 26 gauge core with a really thin outer core. I think they get thicker too. I'm going to put the 2.5 millimeter side on there, and notice my screw. I don't know. See how I got it out? I don't keep it tight. It just jams that way. Okay, tends to jam. Once you grab the wire, you don't have to worry about anything except turning it around there. That's all I'm doing is winding it up. When you got thin wire, it'll tend to overwind itself and pancake. When you got Claptons and down, what I do is I wind the coil until this leg is about there. You know, where I can just grab it with my pliers. That's all I'm going to do. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this leg right here with these nylon pliers so as not to damage the integrity of that Clapton. I'll pull it nice and tight. That tightens up the Clapton, okay? Tightens up any coil. Another microgram tip. Do the same with this side once I get it out of here. The exact same thing. All these little tips. No rocket science, nothing earth-shattering, but little tiny things that, again, just kick it up a notch. That's what we're always trying to do, is kick it up a notch. Take what's been working and see if I can milk a little more performance out of it. That's basically my goal, is to milk the maximum performance out of any setup I have. I mean, you could just stick a regular coil in this thing, it vapes like there ain't no tomorrow. But if you could get it to where you're milking the absolute most performance out of it, why the hell would you not? So I'm just going to hold that leg over there, and I'm going to pull this side too. First time doing this on the viewfinder, so I'm just going to go like this and just pull this thing. Okay, so now we'll notice, I'll compare it to my reference benchmark sample. So I've got probably 3 winds to take off. Okay, so I'm just going to pull a few off this side, because this is a short side. I'm going to need a little more than that. And then I'm definitely going to pull off the starter side. This was not the starter side. Okay, we're just going to pull off and watch that come around. We'll go 1.5 here. Turn this over. I'm basically going to want the legs to come off like that, so I can bend them into proper position. They're going to come off like you're doing a Z-coil, but once we get done bending them, they won't look like that anymore. So there you go. There's going to be our little deal. Let's hold it up to our reference coil. Hell yeah. Okay, so now you see where the legs are coming off. You lay it down flat, the legs are coming off flat, okay? Now I'm going to grab my needle nose pliers. here's the part that is so easy to do, often overlooked and not performed, but when you see why we're performing it, and again, we're going for this build will work in any atomizer you want to put it in. I keep it on this pole, take my finger and I pin down the coil so it ain't going anywhere, merely getting these pliers and just bending this leg back 90 degrees perpendicular to the coil. Basically, that's it. See that? That's it. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Identical. And yeah, I should be freaking working right now, you know. But I'm not. I'm working for you guys. Taking one for the team. Getting paid by my job. And yeah, it's early in the morning, so you all know that I am going to be shaking hardcore from the coffee deal. So now we got the leg bends I was showing you. Coming off like that. So I can stick my my low leg in the top posts and the leg coming off the top and the bottom post. So why don't we go about doing that right now. Okay. Alright. So all we're going to do now is take this coil. Remember, low leg is going in the center post. It's been brought high. The high leg has been brought low to go in the outer post. So it's just, we're going to just stick it under this little plate. By the way, anybody wondering at home, this is a MedMods Atty if I didn't already say it. You can see the gift of being a freaking tool. That even the simplest things on earth sometimes become unsimple. That's why I love simple to build freaking atomizers, because I can make anything look complicated, trust me. So I'm just sticking this in here to avoid taking that screw out, because I switched my outer screws with my center screw back in the dual coil building days. Just made it easier. All I'm doing is taking this in. This is by no means a challenge again. You'll be able to do it much easier than I am. I can guarantee you that. So there, that's what we're going to do now. Here's the part that I find to be important. Now that we got the coil in there, I want it really close to the posts when I tighten down screws, like just a little bit off. Okay, because we're going to shove this coil over, and the closer it is to the posts, it just seems to work better. I also don't recommend doing this on a mod, particularly a Squonk mod, you know, where you got kind of an insulator in there that you could easily screw up by like being forceful with it and wind up making your mod leak. That's why I'm doing this on this. I could easily do it on a mod, but I got it on here because I can go cray with it and no worries. I've stopped building on mods now. And that's about it. So now what we're going to do, you see the position of the coil again. We're going to use this tool to push it over. Okay, now if this leg right here gets crossed up, it's not a big deal. Okay, the one leg we don't want to be crossed up is this one. We want that to maintain its integrity. So we're just pushing it over to center it. It's looking pretty damn centered. Then we're going to bring it down. Okay, see how it's all staying together pretty well. When I vape, I like the air to hit a little more towards the top. So basically I gauge it by looking at the Squonk hole. I never want the coil lower than the Squonk hole. I like to put the bottom of my coil right about with the top of the Squonk hole. Okay, right about the top of the Squonk hole. That way I know it's never going to be floating in liquid. So that's what I'm aiming to do right now. You see that hole in there, that pin? That's where the juice is going to come in. I'm just going to try and center it to try and tighten it up as much as humanly possible. I'm going to go back and forth just a hair. No big deal. I want this thing nice and tight. Now, horizontally, I like it right about there. Okay? This way. I don't like it right out at the air hole. I like it a tiny bit further, but not right out at it. I like the air to flow around the coil. And if you're right out at the edge of the deck in the M, remember the air hole is going to be right on this rim right here. It's not like a traditional atomizer where the freaking cap goes over the top of the AFC or the deck and the air hole winds up being out here. The air hole is going to be right on this edge. So I don't want to be right on that edge for that reason. So I'm just checking my alignment again. I'm going to tighten it down again. I'm going to be working off camera a lot. So that's just the way I roll. It's not intentional, trust me. So there you go. There's your horizontal stainless Clapton. Pretty damn well centered up, right? Look at the legs. This is what I'm talking about. There's no low leg in the way. So that means wick is just coming out of there. There's no legs in the way. That's why it was important to do those little bends. kind of go against the gravity of the Atty. Normally we just plug it in. Well, this is still just a plug and play, but you're just doing those simple leg bends. Now your Wicking is going to rock. All we're going to do now is grab this other set of tools called wire cutters. Cut these freaking ends off. When we're putting in the single coil reducer too, you want to keep them really close to the ends, really close to it. The single coil reducer likes to have some space. So how's that looking? Pretty righteous? I think it's looking pretty righteous. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this puppy in now while we can. It sits on a 3mm pole. It just goes straight in. You want it to be tight. If it's not tight, I mean, I have some that I've freaking not as tight as they used to be, but they still work fine. That's in now. That makes it, that just blows this thing up. Otherwise, I like the better and dual. Okay, all we're going to do now, I'm going to check the resistance. This comes in at 0.54, which would be perfect on a freaking Mac, in my opinion. Okay, the stainless heats up, ramps up real quick. You can see this battery's at 3.88. And I'm going to have to be I don't want to just bring it on hardcore. Remember our little tricks. You want to bring it on little by little. What I'm going to look for when I'm watching this coil is if any of the outside legs start to glow first, then I'm going to squeeze it. If not, I don't mean squeeze it with force. I'm going to just kind of tickle it a little bit. If not, I'm just going to let the electrons find their path through this coil. That's all we're essentially doing. Okay, see that one right there where it's kind of flaring a little bit right there? I mean, it's not bad. This coil is coming on good. We're just taking our time with it. All we're doing, and I learned this from Michael. Michael knows his shit. Is we're trying to find, electrons are trying to find their way through that coil, and we're ultimately just trying to get them to go through each wind and not jump lines and shit. That's all. So I just give it, I'm not trying to like squeeze it to tighten it up. I'm not trying to really do anything other than manipulate it some. What I also find just kills to make everything come into place is you get your 2.5mm pole back, if you could find where you left it, and we cue it up. But in this case, when I put it in, if you're putting it in and it tries to distort the coil, don't even bother. Okay, but if it doesn't distort the coil and it goes right in, which in my case it's not, oh, because that's a 3mm. That's why that one's not going anywhere. Here's the 2.5mm. Should go in. Okay, just give the coil a little pull this way, just a little pull and a wiggle. Okay, and that should just freaking make it sing. Look at that. See that? Bam. Now we got what we're looking for. You don't have a dark leg in the middle. You got no hot legs. We've done very little manipulation to it. And you're just, again, just letting it come up to you. You got it right. You want to get it right before you wick it. Again, this is a part of any video I'd probably fast forward through because it's boring as hell. What I'm looking for is the end result. But I want to show you what's important to do to make sure your coil's firing properly and working properly. I'll probably take this little thing one more time and put it through here. It's going to be hot now, okay? It's going to be hot as hell, especially on that end. And just wiggle it a little bit. See how stainless steel is so malleable too? I mean, how easy you could bend it and play with it and do all kinds of stuff with it. That's another thing I just love about it. It's very easy to work with. Combine that with like killer flavor, killer lack of imparted flavor, and it is my go-to wire, especially the Clapton. Clapton does, without a doubt, produce more vapor, produces more flavor, and how cheap it is to buy pre-made wire. Like I said, I'd be hard-pressed to ever think I would want to just make Clapton wire. Okay, so now this part is over. Let me put it on a mod real quick. Let me take this one off here and we'll put it on here. Can't promise you air holes are going to line up and stuff because this is the atomizer for this mod. This atomizer's waiting to go on a mod. What mod that's going to be, only the future will tell. I think I have an idea of what it's going to be. I just can't commit, you know. I'm a non-committal type of individual. Careful, coil's probably still going to be hot too. Throwing this down on this little mod. From here we'll handle getting the juice up in it and stuff like that. Wicking it. Getting a pin on it. It's probably lower than this or higher than this, or the air hole might just be in a completely different. That is not where we'd want it to be, but I'm not caring. I want the air hole right where I want the air to point forward. But in other words, from right here, you'll see that it's operating fine. I don't wrench these puppies down on here either. I just put them on a little bit. So why don't we go about wicking it from here? Take it in. All I'm going to need to wick is these scissors, maybe these tweezers, don't know. And what we're going to do is I'm going to, I'm using Native Wicks Platinum wicks. It's going to pull me out a little bit. Don't really need to show you how I'm pulling it out on camera because there's no glamour to it. There's nothing really you're going to learn from it. Just separate a little piece. 11 times out of 10, it's much more than I need. And I just scalp off what I don't need. Again, here's what I pulled off. I'm going to need very little of that. So what I'm looking for when I'm doing this, so I'm trying to find as many strands as possible. Remember, we're wicking this thing loose, so I'm looking for like the most even portions of it here. Looking for the most even pieces of wick that I could stick in. I think I'm going to scalp this off here and probably not use it. As I'm just going to narrow it down to where this is going to be narrower than most of you guys are probably thinking, less dense than most of you guys are probably thinking you need. It's another one of those things that if you're not used to it, you're probably thinking, wow, that's way too little wick. I've been wicking with little wick for a long time. With flavors, it's even more important in my opinion. Have just a little, the thinnest wick you need to fill the diameter of the coil. And this is still too much. You're probably going, wow, that's probably about right there. It's probably about good. No, it's not good. It's too thick. So I'm just going to try and, like I said, scalp off parts of it, that try and leave as much of the good stuff intact as possible. And I'm thinking I just hit that goal of the perfect thickness right here. I think you got to be careful with the Native Platinums as it kind of goes. It almost reminds me of CVS rolled cotton, what we were using back in the day for super bitchin' wicking. But you got to be careful when you're pulling it through that it doesn't catch on an end and like separate it. So off screen again, my little wet paper towel, I'm just kind of fondling the wick to see that it's the right density. And it's feeling pretty righteous about now. See, I have a piece here that's going in that direction. So that means that's the way I'm going to want to stick it in. So it doesn't hang on the coil and pull it apart, okay? And I do apologize for my off-camera antics. Okay, so we're going to stick it through. I'll trim that piece of shit off the end there. All the fun you get to do when you're making a video. Things that normally you don't even think about. Again, just to clarify, if you're just tuning in, that is not where this coil wants to be on this mod. It's not where the atomizer wants to be turned to. It's just for purposes of building this. Is my mod coming with me like a puppy dog? No. These are perfect mods to use to demonstrate perfect wicking because they're light, typical squonkers. E9 Monster would not be a good one to use. Try and get those little planets off there if they're right near the coil, okay? So look, I can drag my wick and my mod stays. Okay, but it has a little resistance, but it's not like following me around like a little lost dog. Okay. Again, I could use this mod as a good example of that. There's certain mods that the bigger and heavier the mod, probably wouldn't. You'll just get to know. And you're going to look at it, and you're going to see when I trim this. I'm going to start with this side right here. When I trim this, it's going to look like, wow, that's not enough wick. That's the goal. My goal is not to have a ton of wick. Because remember, with squonking, you're filling on demand, okay? You're filling on demand. Let's go through that with anybody that doesn't know why. How? Here's the bottle. I'm going to have to squeeze it kind of funkily. You're going to see juice come up into the atomizer. And that's going to work good because it's going to give me a nice place to see if this is the right length of wick. I'm wanting to touch deck, and that's it. I'm touching deck. And that little wick, I mean, you could see priming on that. Why? He'll be ready to vape by the time this video's over. touching deck again. That's all. No big clump in the corner, none of that crap down here. We just want to get this wick on the deck to grab juice. And look, I'm not even squonking it anymore. You can just see that how fast that wick is picking up its deal. Okay. Now we'll give it another squonk because, as you can see, the deck is dry. It's sucked it all up. Get a little more juice down in there. Right about now, that thing is probably about to jam. So what I was saying, why I keep the coil pointed away from me. There are some people that like to vape this way too, by the way, with the mod, with the vaping with their thumb. I'm just not one of them. I'm used to vaping with my trigger finger. When I'm vaping, it cleans out everything on this side when I turn it this way, and it kind of collects over here. And then I could just straighten it out, and anything will run through and pick it up. But yeah, for just the purposes of this video, I'll do one of those kind of thumb vapes for y'all. I'm going to give it one more hit of juice because I want to just make sure I've completely picked up as much liquid as possible and got it into that wick. Remember, the meniscus layer. Thin wick equals meniscus layer. Meniscus layer equals juice that builds up. Here, let's zoom in a little bit. If you don't believe me, ask Michael Graham. He's a specialist in quantum mechanics, and that's basically wicking and stuff like that. The meniscus layer builds up between your wick and the coil. That's why we're going thin, okay? Otherwise, the wick just has capillary wicking, which means just whatever the wick holds, and so you'll get some vapor and you'll get some flavor and everything's cool. You might think you're getting a bunch more hits and all that. I'm not. Why would we be concerned with how many hits we're going to get on a squonker when all you got to do is hit the damn bottle? I'm not concerned. I would rather have flavorful, killer, productive hits. Again, my goal is to make sure I get at least one epic hit before I squonk. But usually it's more like, especially on this atomizer, about 4 or 5 epic hits, maybe even more before I squonk. But if I can get at least one, as long as I want, as many watts as I want, that's my goal. And easy to do on a 22. That right there is all day. Exactly what I said. So then what I'll do is I'll put on the Atty top without the drip tip on, because I want to line up the air hole perfectly centered on the coil so I can look through it and see that it is when it is. Just give it a nice straight push down. So I look through my coil. I look through there and I'm looking at, I see a little more of the top of the coil than anything else. Then I just put the drip tip on. And I know who vapes this way too, thumb style. We hit a hit. It's freaking awesome. You'll experience the flavor is just insane. Awesome. So there's that. So we'll keep this bad boy waiting for future home. And I'll stick this other one back on here. Yeah, that one's got a place for it coming soon. Stick this other one back on here, and you'll see that I keep the coil positioned away from my vape style. Just keep it away, pointed directly the opposite of your mouth. There's your rule of thumb, okay? And remember, don't wrench it down. Give it a little squonk action. You see it comes in, picks up the wick. And you know you're on the pipe with this thing. It's running, rocking and rolling when you fire it and you see the edges out here just bubbling. See that the flavor. I can't convey flavor through camera. And that's it. Pretty simple stuff. Simple stuff is my favorite stuff. Little adaptations to simple stuff to make it vape a little better, put a little more effort into it, are even more epic to me. Taking the simple, putting a little bit of effort into it, a little more than, and then just getting after it. Those little pops on a nice broken end coil. Can't beat them. I'll see y'all later. Have a great day.